Welcome to Channel Ocho Nueve News, your source of semi-relevant news. I'm Connor Watson. Now, to kick off today's news story, let's talk about some environmental issues. A new issue has arose for those moving into the cities or those currently living there: waste disposal. Mountains of trash grow daily as more people move to the cities. There's too much trash and not enough places to put it. The slums of the cities grow ever more filthy. Dumbbell tenements grow increasingly overcrowded daily. These buildings harbor not only people but disease as well. Now on to entertainment. Macy's in New York and Marshall Field's in Chicago have recently opened up. The department stores are attracting many middle-class shoppers as well as creating many opportunities for women to work. Moves to the cities have also sparked a new way of living. Buying items in bulk has become increasingly popular, yet disposing of these items brings us back to the waste issue. Also, Theodore Dreiser's novel, Sister Carrie, has been published. The story follows Carrie Meeber, a resident of rural Chicago, to the big city, where the glam of department stores awakens her yearning for a life full of riches. Alex?
Due to the federal government doing virtually nothing to rid of the criminals running the streets of the cities, the state government has had trouble handling the problem as well, leading to the local government not being able to get the problem under control. Due to the government not dealing with the problem, this has led to the rise of urban political machines like Boss Tweed. He gained his power by trading jobs and services for votes, and in return for votes, he would provide services, housing, and food and clothing to immigrants. He also helped get schools, parks, and hospitals placed in immigrant neighborhoods. Now we're going to go to Kelsey with traffic.
Thank you, Alex. Do you know your neighbor? In the past few years, more than 5 million have cascaded into the country. From Slovaks to Poles and Italians to Croats, the U.S. seems to have it all. The city is becoming a rather large megalopolis for different businesses, industries, and residential neighborhoods. With no room in their native countries, they have sought out a plan to become the many of newcomers of the 20th century. Meanwhile, rapid growth population, American food imports, and European industrialization is creating a vast footloose army of the unemployed. The effect of the new immigration is making America's government appear as ill-suited to these upcoming great cities. City governments are being proved as woefully inadequate due to the scale of urban growth. Immigration to America is in many ways a byproduct of urbanization of Europe, and taking care of the immigrants is becoming a big business. Many reformers are sickened by this exploitation of the immigration vote. Back to you, Alex.
During this time of urbanization, more than 1 million women joined the workforce. Most women getting jobs were single, and they were getting them based on race, ethnicity, and class. The better of the jobs were reserved for native-born women, whereas immigrants were getting long-hour, low-wage jobs. Nonetheless, it was a very big stride forward in social independence for women. All of the new immigration has led to the return of nativism within the country. Although people were still emigrating for the same reasons as they previously had been, like religious freedoms and new opportunities within the country, the natives were viewing them as culturally and religiously exotic. They had brought with them the high birth rate and low standard of living, which was very worrying to the natives. They had voiced concern and placed blame on the immigrants for the degradation of urban government. And through the problems arose the American Protective Association, known as the APA, who pursued nativist goals and urged voting against Roman Catholic candidates. Immigration led to lots and lots of problems, and finally in 1882, Congress began to put a stop to the immigration with a restrictive law that barred out paupers, criminals, and convicts. In 1885, they also prohibited the importation of foreign workers under contract. In 1882, they completely banned Chinese immigration, and in 1917, a literary test was required of all immigrants.
I'm here today with Charles Darwin, and he's here to explain about his book, Origin of Species. Charles, why did you write your book?
Well, I concluded that higher forms of life evolved from lower ones based upon natural selection and survival of the fittest. This process is called evolution. It's not entirely a new idea, but I'm the first to link it to natural selection.
So does your book explain away God? Are you trying to make us all atheists?
Well, I wouldn't say it explains away from God, but I certainly don't consider his role in it all to be to be crucial or even necessary at all. It wasn't my intent to make everyone atheist. I just wanted to publish my observations.
So what kind of effect will this have on future generations and on religion?
I think only time would tell. My book approaches our look at the natural world as I think it happened, and religion might view it in another way. Some might try to integrate it into two views that might actually work out for them. People will decide for themselves if there's a creator behind it all or not. I guess we all know in time.
Ready?
Yeah, I'm ready.
I'm here with Cardinal John Gibbons, and he's here to discuss the Church in America and a little bit about the First Vatican Council. So, Your Eminence, let's talk first about the First Vatican Council. What were some of the outcomes? What impact will it have on the Church in America?
The first document written discusses God as the beginning and end of all things, that he created all things out of nothing, foresees all things, and leads all things to their intended end. Also, it discusses the two sources of divine revelation, Scripture and tradition. The second document discusses and defines something very important, Papa infallibility. Now, by papal infallibility, we do not mean to declare the Pope to be perfect, but rather that by virtue of his role as vicar of Christ, he is protected from error when speaking on matters of faith and morals. As far as what effect this will have on the Church in America, I believe it provides a solid foundation to lead us into the 20th century and through these changing times.
So, you're very popular with other faiths. What do you think is the root of this?
Well, I think it's mostly because of my support of the Knights of Labor and seeing that they don't get written off. I have various charity efforts here around Baltimore, and I think people probably like that. However, if them liking me doesn't translate into them finding faith, it was all for naught. We can't reduce a Christian's role in society to merely a humanitarian effort. It has to start with faith. It has to start with knowing God. That's what the Vatican Council is about, and that's what will keep religion in America strong. We will start with faith, and then we share it with the world.
Well, thank you for being with us here today.
You're welcome.
I'm here today with Dwight Moody, and he's here to explain to us how he started his line of work in missionary and religious studies. What did you see in women that helped you start schools and missionary work for them, Moody?
I see how women connect to the other women and children in a way that I've never seen before, especially from men. After witnessing a woman named Emma Dreyer teach a class, I realized that women can be so much more than the standard they held to right now. We're selling them short.
So how did you get into this line of work? What was your motivation in the beginning?
So I first started as owning a shoe store. That didn't turn out to be such a great thing because bad sales, why not? And so I came across a couple of missionaries and they're teaching me the gospel, and then I was like, I'll find my way now. And then the Chicago fire destroyed everything about my life. But I kept believing in God, and I was like, I am determined to spread his culture and his religion throughout the world.
Well, thank you for being with us here today, Moody.
No problem.
I'm here today with Booker T. Washington, and he's here to tell us about some of the advancements in education. Washington, what are you doing right now for your career?
Right now, I am heading the Tuskegee Institute in Alabama. It's a higher education school for African Americans.
Okay, have you seen any other advancements in the field of education for African Americans?
Why, yes. Like one of my students right now, George Washington Carver, he discovered a lot of new stuff to help us in the future, like a lot of things involving like peanuts and stuff like that. And also a guy named Du Bois, he also earned a PhD, the first of his kind to do so.
All right, and have you seen any other advancements in other minority groups?
Right now, like Catholics right now are improving other immigrants to help increase their education so they can fit better in our world.
All right. Well, thank you, Booker. I am here today with Charlotte Claire, and we are here to talk about some of the advancements in education.
So, here in 1880, we've seen about still 17% of the nation is illiterate, and only 6% of Americans graduate high school. But still, since the Civil War, we've seen quite a few advancements. Right now, we're seeing education become more of a commonplace thing and not just something that's for the wealthy people. And in 1862, we passed the Morrill Act, which helped us get more land for schools. And in 1887, the Hatch Act provided federal funds for agriculture schools and more agriculture experiments to get some kids who might not otherwise go to school in schools. And we kind of mainstreamed the education system, so now kids spend about 8 years in elementary and 4 years in high school, and then they finally graduate.
All right. And have you seen any advancements in the educational field for women?
For women, about 1 in 3 college students are women at this point, so we've seen a lot of advancements there as opposed to when we didn't have any women in schools.
Okay, thank you, Charlotte.
All right, so today we're looking at the literacy rate across the United States in 1870. So here in the Northeast, we have quite a high literacy rate, and that spreads straight across the northern part of the country over to California, where we've seen quite a bit of immigration, and even still they're keeping up with their relatively high literacy rate as compared to parts of the South, where we see very little advancements in education and still a very low literacy rate down here. Up in sort of the northern parts of Minnesota, we see a very low literacy rate still, but that's kind of improving. The South will see some more advancements in the decades to come, but right now this is the scene we see across the United States for literacy rate.
Good morning, America. Today, women are gaining more rights at a rapidly growing rate. The outstanding movement is causing stress on the home front, but a relief on the women's backs. In Wyoming, they just passed the right to vote for women. This and other freedoms are causing strife on the domestic front. Women are beginning to have more opportunities outside the home of their husbands. Victoria Woodhull, a feminist propagandist, publicly proclaimed her belief in free love. This blindsided confession shook the pillars of conventional morality. With her sister by her side, the Woodhull girls have exposed themselves to a battle of sexual altitudes in the place of women. With these separate but related topics, our world is experiencing an increase in divorce rates, the practice of birth control, and frequent discussion of sexual topics. The world is outstanded by the development of women's opportunity, but women are in action and may never stop. Who's to say this movement will lead? And now over to you, Bryn.
Women's rights ideas are beginning to bleed over into the literary world with authors such as Kate Chopin and Emily Dickinson. Their works depict women's struggles not only on the home front but also in general society. With authors such as them and others like Mark Twain, Jack London, and Walt Whitman, our world is entering a phase of literature which has coined the name realism. Their books address the topics of divorce, treatment of African Americans, socialists, and reformers, all topics that have recently been viewed as taboo. While these topics may seem morbid to some, they're on the minds of thousands in our ever-changing world. Magazines are also becoming a new trend. Some created for light readings, while others, such as The Nation, plead for civil service reform, honesty in government, and a moderate tariff. In Henry George's Progress and Poverty, he strives to solve the great enigma of our time by suggesting we place a 100% tariff on windfall products, which would in turn eliminate inequalities and stimulate economic growth. Meanwhile, a new phenomenon has what the world is calling dime books flying off the shelf. These stories feature colorful descriptions of the Wild West. While the kids can't seem to get enough of these small books, parents are frowning on the violence featured between cowboys and Indians. Who will win in the newly ensued duel between parent and child? I guess we'll have to wait until they draw. And now over to you, Kaylin.
Thanks, Bryn. It looks like John Adams was right when he anticipated that his generation's preoccupation with nation building would allow art to flourish. Portrait painting is becoming popular because the question is, who would you rather have your portrait done by? James Whistler or Winslow Howler? Or maybe you would rather get your sculpture. Augustus St. Gaudens has been said to be the most gifted sculptor out there. Also becoming popular are landscape paintings by the self-taught leading landscapist of this time, George Inness. Don't miss out on getting the latest things on today's segment of Big Trends. Back to you, Rissa Rooster.
Thanks for watching. This has been Channel 2 News. Have a good day, America. Good morning to you, America. With women gaining more and more opportunities and becoming an integral part of everyday life, many people find themselves asking what will come from them next. Will they begin to take charge? Currently, more than 1 million women have joined the workforce with their best foot forward. Labor forces are mainly looking for single women who are willing to work long hours. However, they have promised little recompense, and the workplace can become extremely grueling. To protect against this, the state of Illinois just passed an anti-sweatshop law which protects women workers and prohibits child labor. Not only are women becoming a part of the factory workforce, they have also gained positions in the big-name department stores such as Macy's and Marshall Field, and the cities such as New York and Chicago. William Wald's Henry Street settlement in New York City has become the center of activism and social reform for not only women but also children, African Americans, and consumers. With this progress, New York City has become the frontier of opportunity for women. On a large scale, women have begun to see an increase in education, and statistics say that every third college graduate is a female. These astonishing advancements for women may seem new to your eyes, but brace yourselves, America, because women are slowly and surely becoming an integral part of our society. And now over to you, Bryn.
Our print world is turning into a back-and-forth battle between two typhoons in the news industry. Hungarian-born Joseph Pulitzer continues to duke San Francisco boy William Hearst in what has become a long, drawn-out battle. The war over circulation began after Hearst bought the New York Morning Journalism. From there, the two began a price war in which they were constantly lowering their price of the paper to sell more. Now their papers feature exaggerated and occasionally biased reporting disguised as fact, a sensation many are calling yellow journalism. Their papers also feature bold headlinings and large pictures, which enables for the least amount of story covering possible. To gain even more attention, some of their papers feature sensationalism, altering or completely making up facts. They also feature outrageous and emotional headlines that occasionally have nothing to do with the actual story below. I don't know what the next stop is for these two on this downward spiraling track, but if they keep it up, we'll all be out of a job. And now over to you, Kaylin.
It has come to my attention that music is gaining a lot of popularity. America's elite have found pleasure in going to symphonies and operas held at the Metropolitan Opera House of New York to enjoy European music. But that isn't the only kind of music trending. The so-called ragged music, it's making a name for itself. It consists of blues, jazz, and, well, ragtime. Watch out. Edison has made yet another invention called the phonograph, or some people are calling it canned music. With this invention, I can see our pianos turning into dust collectors. Phineas Barnum, the creator of the circus, has teamed up with James Bailey to create the greatest show on earth. But they got some competition when Buffalo Bill's Wild West Show came bursting into town with its whooping Indians and sharpshooters such as Annie Oakley, showing off what she can do with a rifle and a playing card. Baseball is back and bigger than ever. Make sure you get your tickets to see the All-Star team when they come to New York. But what do we do in winter when it's too cold to play outside? James Naismith has given us the answer. Basketball, a quick-paced game that includes 2 teams of 5 people on the court each. trying to get the most amount of points by putting the ball through the hoop. Some people have been giving this decade the name Naughty 90s due to the way the croquet players were exposing their ankles and promoting flirtation. Our last trend of the morning is cycling. They are now being made with taller seats for speed purposes. Thanks for tuning in on today's portion of Big Trends. Back to you, Rissa Rooster.
Thanks for watching. This has been Channel 2 News. Have a good day, America.
The conquest of the Indians and the development of the railroad led to the expansion of the West and advancements in the mining frontiers. In 1859, 59ers rushed west with signs displaying Pike's Peak or bust. But little did they know that the gold was short supply, so many had to head back home with their tails between their legs. Some stayed behind to mine silver or non-metallic gems, and many also poured into Nevada after the Comstock Lode. Lucky strikes led to the building of thousands of boom towns, also called shanty towns. There were lots of saloons with beer and liquor and bad women. Vigilance justice was the prevailing force in the West, and when gold was gone, it became a ghost town. When the topsoil gold was gone, large mining corporations would bring in machinery to break up gold-bearing quartz. When you think about the lasting impacts of mining in the West, you would think about that a lot of the larger population in the West was due to massive mining movements. In the West, because of mining, there was equality with women, and there were advancements when it comes to American folklore and literature. After the Civil War, we're going to shift our view towards the Texas Plains. In Texas, the plains were very well suited to raise tough longhorn cattle. They were killed for their hides and for their meat, but it was hard to get meats to markets. After the building of the transcontinental railroads and other smaller railroads, cattle could now be shipped to beef barons across the United States. To get to railroad terminals, these cattle drivers would have to go on what was called the long drive. The railroad that made the long drive also led to its demise. The railroad brought many homesteaders, leading to fences being built that interrupted the long drive and made it hard for drivers to get their longhorn where they needed to go. Lastly, the final death stroke to the long drive and cattle drives was the winter of 1886 to in 1887. Lots of grass died and many cattle were found starving or freezing to death because of temperatures at 70 below zero. This is Dylan Fitzgerald, signing off.
Today we have a stunning map of the Battle of Little Bighorn that happened yesterday, the tragedy. As you see here, down here, this is the Indian reservation. This is what we were trying to get to. They were pushing off their land into our land that we had by treaty from them. Over there, that's General Reno. He was trying to push from the south and get into them to attack from three fronts, but he didn't know the force that the Indians had, so he had to get pushed back across the river. Custer, on the other hand, he was trying to attack from the north, so he was coming around. He's right here, and he had to branch off. Him and his 300 men started to come around to attack from the north, leaving some of their soldiers behind. Little did they know, Sitting Bull was waiting for them. And as they came around, they were in a valley, and all rode the 300 into the Valley of Death. Welcome back. We're here with the first ever broadcast of a true general, captain, leader of the Nez Perce Indians, Mr.
Chief Joseph.
Now, Mr. Joseph, can I call you that?
You call me what you want.
Okay. Mr. Chief Joseph, what is the white man doing to oppress you?
They make us move off our land.
So it's your land and we're trying to kick you off of it, is that right?
Yes. You kick us off our land.
Now, I'm not trying to be offensive here, but Americans, throughout history, we've never kicked anybody off of their land. It's always been our land that we're trying to take back. What do you have to say to that?
You selfish.
Okay, I understand your feelings, and I've been there. I've been an English person once. It's not a good thing to go back to. Why don't you try to incorporate into our society?
We tried once. Andrew Jackson still made us move.
Okay, I understand where you're going with this, but here's the thing. There's gold on your land, and we like gold. So don't you think it's kind of like, you can move to make us better? Like, it's not that hard for you guys to move, so for us to just, like, we'll move you back into a nice land. I'm sure there's nice of knots and tons of, like, buffalo or whatever you guys like there. I mean...
You overhunt buffalo. Almost to extinction.
Have you felt buffalo pelt? It's the softest thing. It's like a baby's bottom.
Yes.
Have you felt a baby's bottom?
Yes.
Okay, good. So we're on the same page here. So I'm just please try to explain to me like what the white man ourselves are doing to your people.
First, you move us off our land out of Idaho and move us to Ohio. Then you move us to Oklahoma. And then we want to go back home to Idaho, but then you move us to Washington Territory.
So what did you try to do to stop this from happening?
We tried leaving to Canada, but then you chased us. And we died because of cold.
So you guys take cold, is that?
Okay. Yes.
All right.
This is Kayla Kelly with Channel 4 News. Tonight our breaking news stories include the Grange along with the People's Party, the election of 1896, and the marching of Coxey's Army. In other news, cotton prices just rose 1 penny. I'm sending it to Emma Clinky in Washington with information about the Grange.
Hello, this is Emma Clanky reporting on the Grange. I'm here with Oliver Kelly, leader of this organization. So, Oliver Kelly, tell us a little about yourself.
Well, I'm a Minnesota farmer working as a clerk in Washington, and I'm the leader of this organization called the Grange.
Tell us a little bit about the organization.
The organization is working to improve the lives of farmers through self-improvement and regulating. We want to regulate railroads, fees, and...
So, Oliver Kelly, how did you do this?
Well, we established corporately owned stores, and we formed together kind of as a union.
So there's talk about you forming into a third party?
We talked about organizing into the People's Party or the Populist Party, and our main platform is just trying to get greenbacks.
Well, thank you very much, Oliver Kelly. And back to you, Kayla.
Our next story is about Coxey's Army. I'm sending it to Jan Reeder out in Ohio.
Reporting in Ohio at the start of the Coxey's Army March. Oh, look, there's Mr. Coxey right now. So, Mr. Coxey, so how did you form this organization to march to Washington, D.C.?
I just got a group of unemployed people since the unemployment rate is really peaking right now. It's at 18%. And we decided that we were going to march to D.C. to support our cause.
So, how did you get people to march with you?
We wanted to persuade Congress to help us support public works programs to help the unemployed.
All right, thanks, Mr. Coxey, for your time.
Oh, no problem.
Well, it looks like there's a great turnout today. It looks like 500 people are here. Back to you, Kayla.
Breaking news! The 1896 election just came in. McKinley is our new president. Sorry, Coxey's Army and the Grange organization. All your hard work did not pay off. Bryan did not get elected. McKinley, a Republican, won most of the northern states, while Bryan, the Democrat/Populist Party candidate, won most of the southern states. Sorry, farmers. You guys just don't have as many people as the North.